Hi learners, I'm Ankita and in this video today we will be continuing from where we left in the previous video, and that was we did till question number 50. So इस video में हम करेंगे question number 51 से start. Now, which of these themes best sums up the preoccupation of most of Vijay Tendulkar's plays? Now, Vijay Tendulkar is a very famous name. He is an Indian dramatist and he wrote in Marathi. बहुत famous playwright है ये India के. And when you are preparing Indian literature, you have to prepare Vijay Tendulkar's plays, and two of his most famous plays are, one is Ghasiram Kotwal and the second is Silence the Court is in Session. These two are very famous plays by him. Ghasiram Kotwal I studied myself in my undergraduation. Actually, his plays, they derive inspiration from real life incidents or social upheavals which provide clear light on harsh realities, right? So this particular answer would be that one of the theme that you can see here is on the workings of power. So definitely it is option number 4, that is workings of power. Now we come to the next question, and again we have to match the lists here. Now anniversaries temple, the rehearsal transposed, it's actually transposed. Okay, so यहाँ पर एक n आएगा which is missing here. The rehearsal transposed and Pindaric odes, and again जो आपको नीचे नाम दिए हैं सारे बहुत famous names हैं, and I think this should not be a difficult question because anniversaries we definitely know that is John Donne. So this is 2. Now Temple is a volume by George Herbert, so this would be 3. The rehearsal transposed, this is by Andrew Marvell, so this would be 4 here, and Pindaric odes is by Abraham Cowley, and that is like number 1. So let's see below. Anniversaries, like I said, 2, so A is 2 here, and that's the only where A is matched with 2, so this is the right one. Now coming to the next question, who is the author of Radiant Textuality? And Radiant Textuality, you know, the full title is actually Literary Studies After the World Wide Web, and that's a famous book by Jerome McGann. So Jerome McGann, and you know, this book describes and explains the fundamental changes which are now taking place in the traditional areas of humanities, theory and method, scholarship and education. So the answer is 1. Moving further, which of these may be said to be true of the journal published from Bowling Green University from 1969, which carried essays on Spider-Man, comics, rock music and detective films? Now, I'm sure आपने नहीं सुना होगा इसके बारे में, and which is okay, right? But then these are the questions which you need to apply brains and some common sense. Now, see, अगर एक journal is carrying essays on Spider-Man comics, rock music and detective films, तो ये सब क्या है? ये सब popular culture में आता है, rock music, comics और detective films, right? तो यहाँ पर अगर आप देखेंगे तो that means it is highlighting the importance of popular culture, definitely, right? अब ये elite culture में नहीं है, definitely not, right? It sought to buttress the canon by making it more elitist, ये elitist में आएगा? Again no, right? And next, it sought to break down the dominance of high culture. So yes, it is breaking down the dominance of high culture, isn't it? So here both A and D are the right answers. Now again you can see that this comes in only the second one, and therefore the answer is 2. Now coming to the next question, how does T.S. Eliot sum up the peculiar quality of Marvell's Horatian Ode? Now again, T.S. Eliot as a critic is very important. And this is something that you will come across when you are reading his essays on criticism and you know what he has written about Marvel. So the answer here would be second, a tough reasonableness beneath a slight lyric grace, right? That's the answer here. Moving further, again we have to match the list here. A Handful of Dust. Now this is very famous work by Evelyn Waugh. Now again I'll write here too. Brighton Rock is a novel by Graham Greene, so again a famous one. Howard's End is by E.M. Forster, again very famous work. Plumed Serpent is by D.H. Lawrence, it's a political novel. Okay, so here I'm gonna write 3, and this leaves us with 4, which is by Aldous Huxley, Those Barren Leaves. We can match the options here, and the answer will be 2, right? This particular one. Now, again, we are given 2 statements. A pigeon is found by 2 mutually unintelligible speech communities trying to communicate using the most obvious features of each other's languages. This is true. And then we have a second statement: notwithstanding the number of years a pidgin is spoken, it can never become the mother tongue of a community. Now, this is wrong. It can. And how can it become the mother tongue? So see, what happens is कि अगर कोई first generation है एक community का, if they are learning pidgin as their first language, then yes, it can become their mother tongue, right? So that is why the correct answer here is 3. Next question: who among the following has coined the terms ecofeminism? Now here they are asking you कि किसने coin किया था ये term ecofeminism, and the answer is Françoise de Bon, and she was a French writer. And she coined this in 1974, and she coined this term in her book Feminism or Death. That was the name of the book जहाँ पर इन्होंने इस term को coin किया था, ecofeminism को. Next is who wrote the short story The Voter? Actually कोई L नहीं है यहाँ पर, it's just a voter, okay? And this answer is Chinua Achebe. और जो ये story है ये ओल्ड कस्टम्स के बारे में है और मॉनेटरी ब्राइब्स के बारे में है, which are colliding to rig a local village election. Next question: which two of the following fallacious evaluations of poetry according to Arnold's study of poetry? Options are these. अगेन जो मैथ्यू आर्नोल्ड का स्टडी ऑफ पोइट्री है उनका बहुत फेमस ऐसे है, एंड अगेन दिस इज समथिंग जो कि आपने अपनी प्रेपरेशन में यू मस्ट हैव कवर्ड दिस. और इस ऐसे में वो बोलते हैं कि यू शुड बी वेरी केयरफुल कि आप हिस्टोरिकल और पर्सनल एस्टिमेट्स जो हैं उनको अवॉइड करें. पर्सनल एस्टिमेट माने कि गिविंग इम्पोर्टेंस टू अ पोएट बिकॉज आप उसको पर्सनली लाइक करते हो, आप बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. बिकॉज अगर आप उस पर जाते हो तो आपकी जो जजमेंट्स है वो रॉन्ग होंगी, गलत होंगी. और हिस्टोरिकल जजमेंट उन्होंने बोला कि अगर आप एक पोएट को जज करते हो फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ हिज इम्पोर्टेंस इन द कोर्स ऑफ लिटरेरी हिस्ट्री, अगर आप उसके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जज करते हो, अगेन दैट इज रॉन्ग, बिकॉज ये भी उनके हिसाब से एक ट्रू जजमेंट नहीं है पोएट का. बिकॉज अगर आप उसको हिस्टोरिकली इम्पोर्टेंट सोच के जज करते हो ना, तो उसकी वजह से हो सकता है कि आप उस काम को ज्यादा हायर रेट करो देन एक्चुअली जो वो डिजर्व करता है, उससे ज्यादा शायद आप उसको रेट कर दो. And that is why he says that both of them should be avoided, right? So the answer here would be B and D, only 3. Next, in his recasting the canon of English poetry and new bearings in English poetry, which of the following pairs was downgraded by F.R. Lewis? And the answer here is Milton and Shelley, as in P.B. Shelley. Also, this is the name of the text, New Bearings in English Poetry. Okay, so ye should be in capitals. Next question is interesting. Which of the following fictional characters is believed to be based on the 15th century real life character Vlad the Impaler? And आपने I'm sure अपनी preparation में एक बार जरूर पढ़ा होगा Count Dracula के बारे में, and that is based on Vlad the Impaler, Count Dracula. बहुत famous character है, the vampire. So the answer here is 1. Next, arrange in the right sequence the following stages of a child's first language acquisition. Also, this is not cooling, this is cooing. Okay, cooing. Now the first here is of course cooing. सबसे पहले वो coo करना start करता है, right? And this is the stage number 1. उसके बाद फिर वो धीरे धीरे babble करना start करता है, and then he goes on to holophrastic. Now, holophrastic क्या होता है? Holophrasis is the pre-linguistic use of a single word to express a complex idea. So, for example, let's say कि एक बच्चे ने एक recent word सीखा था यहाँ पर ball. अब उसको ball चाहिए, right? He wants ball, want. He won't say want. It's likely he'll say ball. This is the third stage, therefore, and we are left with this telegraphic speech, which is the fourth one. So, if you see, this holophrasis is the stage जहाँ पर वो एक एक word use कर रहे हैं, and telegraphic speech is the next stage जहाँ पर वो 2 word वाली जो stage होती है वो आती है, right? So we start with cooing, we go to babbling, then holophrasis, and then telegraphic speech. So this is the word order. Here it is DB and AC, DB, AC. So the answer will be 4th. Moving further, which of the following is a dead language? And the answer here is Gothic. Dead language माने कि अब वो कोई use नहीं करता. Now it is dead. Next, which book by J.G. Ballard is about a virus that freezes anything it comes in contact with? And the answer here is The Crystal World. So it's a science fiction novel which was published in 1966. First of all, again, let me just correct the question here. This line is not supposed to be in the question. That's a repetition. So yeah, the question is, who among the following posits the tradition of great writers as an inescapable fact and takes the ambivalent position of considering it as both a blessing and a curse? It and as a curse. I'm sorry, where I took this paper from has a lot of mistakes. Now this particular यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक, this is what we call anxiety of influence. Let me just write anxiety of influence, and this anxiety of influence is by Harold Bloom. So it's a type of literary criticism जो कि Harold Bloom ने establish किया था 1973 में in the book The Anxiety of Influence. Okay, और ये होता क्या है, ये एक psychological struggle को refer करता है of aspiring authors जो ओवरकम करना चाहते हैं the anxiety posed by the influence of their literary antecedents, जो कि उनसे पहले आए थे. उनकी इन्फ्लुएंस को ये जो बडिंग ऑथर्स हैं, एस्पायरिंग ऑथर्स हैं, ये अपने लिटरेरी एंटीसीडेंट्स की इन्फ्लुएंस को ओवरकम करना चाहते हैं, और उसको हैरोल्ड ब्लूम ने बोला था that this is anxiety of influence. So the answer here is 3. Next, who among the following was of the view that poetry was only an imitation of an imitation and therefore trivial, and that we know is Plato. Again, very famous, right? Who is the author of Typology of Detective Fiction? And the answer here is Todorov. Next, which two are the works of Ted Hughes? Now, जब आप टेड ह्यूज के बारे में प्रिपेयर करेंगे तो उनकी बायोग्राफी में, उनकी बिब्लियोग्राफी में आप उनके वर्क्स डेफिनेटली पढ़ेंगे, और उसमें यू वुड नो दैट लपर्कल उनका बहुत फेमस वर्क है एक. So C happens in only 2 and 3, right? तो यहाँ पर D नहीं है, that means D is definitely not the answer. अब हमें बचता है ये दो, and out of these two, the next one is Woodrow, which makes the answer to be 3. Now next is a chronology question, and उसके लिए आपको W.B. Yeats का chronology मालूम होना चाहिए. W.B. Yeats बहुत important writer है, and when you are preparing for his works, do note down the dates of his important books, right? So first one is Adam's Curse, ये published हुई थी 1903 में. Next आपका है The Wise Swans at Cool, and this was in 1917. Okay. Next is The Second Coming, और ये पहली दफा पब्लिश हुई थी in 1920, and the last is Among School Children, जो कि पब्लिश हुई थी 1928 में. So the answer here would be DABC. Fourth, again we have chronology question. सारे यहाँ पर important text ही हैं. Now इन सब में we definitely know कि सबसे पुराना एडमंड स्पेंसर का फेरी क्वीन है, because this comes in 1590, ये वाला वर्क इनका. So this definitely is A. Next उसके बाद आता है lyrical ballads, which we know is 1798, right? Next जो चार्ल्स बॉडेलेयर का फ्लावर्स ऑफ इविल है, बहुत फेमस वर्क है उनका. फ्रेंच राइटर थे, तो जब आप फ्रेंच राइटर्स कवर कर रहे हैं अपने सिलेबस में, मेक श्योर दैट यू कवर चार्ल्स बॉडेलेयर, एंड दिस केम आउट इन 1857. एंड पाब्लो नेरूदा, अगेन बहुत फेमस राइटर हैं पाब्लो नेरूदा, एंड हिज पोएम्स, सम ऑफ हिज पोएम्स आर ब्यूटिफुल. And Canto General, this came out in 1950. So you can see that we have A, B, D and C, which is second. Looking at the next question, which of the following is true of mass media? And the answer here is, it usually has a central single source. Of course, it's not true that वो सिर्फ एक localized population को affect करती है. No, its audience, जो उसकी ऑडियंस होती है वो उसकी क्लोज प्रॉक्सिमिटी में होती है उसके सोर्स की. डेफिनेटली नॉट ट्रू. आंसर इज 1. नेक्स्ट, हु रोट द एसे माय फर्स्ट एक्वेंटेंस विद पोएट्स? सिंपल क्वेश्चन विद अ सिंपल स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड आंसर, विलियम हैजलिट. Who among these are songwriters who have been awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature? से Nobel Prize winners आपको definitely मालूम होने चाहिए. And then you would know that रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर को award मिला है गीतांजलि के लिए, because उसकी lyrical quality जो इतनी अच्छी थी, that is why. And Bob Dylan, the famous songwriter, singer, he has also been given the Nobel Prize for Literature, and that is why the answer B and C here, this is 3. Again matching the list, author दिए हैं आपको और आपको उनके वर्क्स दिए हैं. नाउ जो रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग है, दैट इज मैच्ड विद स्ट्रैफोर्ड. एक ये ट्रेजेडी थी स्ट्रैफोर्ड, which Browning wrote in 1837. Coleridge is matched with 3 remorse. Pinero is matched with the second Mrs. Tanqueray, which is 2. Tennyson is matched with Queen Mary, okay, and Wordsworth he is matched with the Borderers. Actually, जो Borderers है ये Wordsworth का पहला major work था. So the answer here is 4. So I will be stopping here and आज हमने next 25 questions cover करे, that is from question number 51 to 75. In the next and the final video on December 2021 question paper, I will be covering the last remaining questions, that is from 76 to 100. I hope that you liked it, and in case you did, then do not forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.